Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the first podcast of the semester here at Real Game Dev Hours. I'm Santiago Vega, one of the new hosts.
And I am Adriana Mann, also one of the co-hosts for the podcast.
And we currently have a very, very special guest coming in hot from live from New York.
Hi, I'm David Vega. I'm a senior technical artist at Rockstar Games.
Whoa. I am not worthy.
Awesome.
But I'm glad you could join us, Mr. Vega. Coming from another Mr. Vega, I want to say thank you very much for being on the show and for gracing us with your presence. I have several questions to ask you regarding your personal experience being a student, because if I remember correctly, you were a university student at Full Sail, correct, here in Florida?
Yep, I used to go to the school that's 20 minutes away from UCF, and then we would talk smack about UCF, and then I graduated and got a job.
Wow, what a great way to get a job. Like me and my friends, we also do the same thing where we talk trash about a Full Sail, and then hopefully we get jobs. So I'm sure the same process works out as well.
It's a mutual sense of antagonism between the schools. As well as the other schools that should not be named in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool beans. Well, I just have a quick question for you regarding your university studies. What exactly did you study when you were in university?
So, right before I started at Full Sail University, I thought I wanted to go into game programming, but then one of my math teachers convinced me otherwise, so I went into game art. One of the things Full Sail does is that it groups its students for the computer animation program and the game art program together for the first year. And then for the first year, they split. So for the first year, I was in game art, but towards the end, I decided that I would rather focus on computer animation, because at the time, the game art program focused almost strictly on 3D modeling, and I found that I enjoyed rigging and scripting a lot more.
Cool. What time period was that? Around like the early 2010s?
That was 2009 until 2011, because Full Sail is a 2-year program. I mean, it's a little bit less than that. It's like almost like a year and a half. So you just get done really, really quickly. Yes, after those 12 months, I split up, focused on what I really wanted to do. And then towards the end of that, one of our instructors brought some guests over. And they were talking about making this short film online. So I stuck with them. So right after college or university, I guess university, it's a technical school, it's not a real school technically.
So it's private schools.
Oh, it says you have to pay money to get in, and that's the only requirement. So through this opportunity to work remotely, I was able to work from home for about 3 years, online with people in the industry. So there were people working at EA, people working at ILM, digital domain, and they could hop around other studios as well. But it gave me an opportunity to grow and have mentors without having to really continue going to school, and also out of the comfort of my own house. And really focus on this late at night. So during the mornings, I like play with my little sister and do stuff with the family, and then at night I just stay up doing my work.
That is true. I can verify that. I can verify that very well. Yes. Who would have thought? But what I also want to mention was you were talking about how you were working on a short film, like almost like an open source project after you graduated. For how long did it take for you to get a job? Like between graduating university and getting that job, how long was that time period?
So between me getting the job at Rockstar Games and graduating, it was it's almost 3 years. Yeah. But again, like having the opportunity to work with other people remotely, which is kind of what's happening right now because of, hey, Corona.
Shout out to the virus.
Very, very relevant right now, especially with all the studios going remotely right now.
Yeah, of course.
it really gives you the opportunity to not only network with other people who are already in the industry, but people who are really passionate about the industry and get jobs in the industry. So during the gap that I did not have like a full job at a AAA company, I was getting some freelance work from time to time. I had an interview almost every month. And that was mostly due to applying all the time and also talking to people online from my team and be like, hey, I saw you started at EA. I saw that rigging position. Can you like hook me up with interviews and stuff like that? So it's like networking, and just also as you keep working on your portfolio after you graduate, even while you're at school too. It's really, really good. Like you have to always work outside of whatever you're given to do, right?
Yeah, that makes
really find the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah. I want to ask like a follow up based on I'm sorry. From what you said earlier, how it was important, like reaching out to others in the team and everything like that. How important is it making connections like before and after you get into the industry, like.
So as a caveat, I want to say when I applied to Rockstar, I applied cold turkey. Like I just sent out my resume and they liked it and they needed a position and I was able to fill it. But for all the other freelance work and positions that I applied to and get interviews for, the majority, I kind of knew someone that could help push my resume forward and vouch for me. It's also not about like brown nosing. It's about just being a real person. Like everyone in the industry, they're just people. Like I know when you're a student, it feels like everyone's like above and beyond, but they're not. Everyone's just
trying to survive out here.
Yeah.
Like most people like that work in the industry also tend to have like other jobs as well. They do on the side or side hobbies. So everyone's just, for lack of a better term, and not to say it in any dismeaning way, we're all average Joes and gals. So just being real, being a person, like maybe going out online and playing video games with them once in a while or whatever, just to invite them to things you like and just build their relationship as you would as a local student or one of your friends. And that's really it. And also like never be afraid to ask online what's the website people like to go to these days? I forget. ArtStation, for example, to get like reviews. If someone is kind, you can always ask for feedback and they'll probably give it to you. A lot of people like that.
Also, you're saying that it's very important to be able to maintain relationships with your not just your coworkers but your peers in order to be successful in the industry. You need to be able to maintain those.
Yeah, because the people that are around you right now, like 5 to 10 years from now, they're going to be the ones doing some really cool things, and you never know if they'll be your fellow coworkers or even your boss, or vice versa. You might need someone, and you're like, "Oh, I remember this person from school because I remember how they work, and I've seen their trajectory in their careers and how it's gone well or gone bad." As an example, very recently, I have a friend who works at Blizzard as a senior artist, and I got an opportunity to speak at a conference in Colombia. So I reached out to him.
No way, really?
Yes. And participating with me because they were looking for other Colombians. And he was like, yeah, for sure. And anytime I'm at GDC or Colombia, I also meet up with another friend who has a game studio there. And you just kind of keep in touch with these people, but it's not because they're like, it's good that they have a good working ethic. That's one thing I like about them, but they're also just my friends, right?
Yeah,
once in a while they reach out to you as well, just like saying, hey, what's up? Like, oh, I want to be here, or I know these opportunities. Do you know anyone? Even some of our recent hires at Rockstar for our teams, they've been friends first. Yeah, to vouch for them because you know how they work, and it's also you realize like they're in the same circles.
That's really cool. It's definitely very important to understand, like, not only how to like gain relationships with people and your peers, but also be able to maintain them, and just being genuine and just being a good friend goes a long way in this kind of industry where it's so like interdependent on these relationships and communication. You mentioned earlier about going to like events, like, for example, in Colombia or GDC. How often would you go to these events, and more importantly, how important were these events in cultivating your relationship skills and maintaining your connections with your peers?
Well, so I'm a board member for NYC ACM CGRAPH, and before that, I was also a board member for the Fort Lauderdale ACM CGRAPH chapter. So ACM CGRAPH is a nonprofit organization that helps promote computer graphics. They host a yearly conference that a bunch of VFX, animated film, academia, and tech companies go to, including video games, to present some of the latest works they've done in computer graphics, some of the techniques they're using. In general, it tends to be very VFX and film centric, but because the type of work is so similar to games, a lot of that does cross over. So it's not only a great learning experience, but you get to meet a lot of people that are your heroes. And again, you figure out that everyone's just a person, like everyone's normal. There's no need to put people on pedestals because no one really is on a pedestal.
Wow, that was real deep. Hold on, let me write that down. I'm playing that on a T-shirt. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god, that was actually really beautiful. Like honestly, like not as a joke.
David, you're doing mom proud. If she was here, you know, she's downstairs, but if she was here in this room, she'd be happy to hear this. So let me see.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah. So like by going to these events, like you meet these people. And by being through the chapters program, because we host events locally, it gave me the opportunity to host game jams in Fort Lauderdale before and invite people like Nuke, get other speakers to come in that used to work in video game industry that were local to the area. And that's really a beautiful thing because you don't really know who's in your neighborhood. Like, for example, me being in New York, I'm always exposed to a lot of people. Like you go to the Visual Effects Society meetups, ACM CGRAPH, IGDA. But I know in Orlando and even more so towards the Miami area, it's such a sparse community. Like you don't know where to go. There's no big companies there. Like when you think of big companies, the first one that comes up with, it's EA. Yep. And even then it's only in Orlando. If you think of like South Florida, the biggest company, I think the biggest gaming company is Ghost Punch. And they're a company that does, what is it? They kind of freelance for other companies and they help them out with their games. And they're not even like a AAA. They're just kind of like a mid-tier company. So do good work. And then the really big fish down there is Magic Leap. And that's not even gaming. But again, the work they do crosses over, so anyone that works in games can easily work for them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, like for coding or for like creating art.
So like it becomes really important especially if you want to stay in the area to go to these type of events. Then you realize there are a lot of small companies around. Sometimes you might even meet people who decided to retire in the area or make a living in the area that work in some of your favorite films. I know that our president for the Fort Lauderdale chapter, he made a company called, I think, October was the name of the company, back in New Zealand. And they did a majority of the shots for Lord of the Rings. And I would have never thought that he lived in Fort Lauderdale unless I went out of my way for these chapter events.
That's really impressive. Lord of the Rings, really?
Yeah. And the same thing, like I said, I organized Global Game Jam twice in Fort Lauderdale. And by going to some of the local gaming meetups, I found out that there was these two guys. One, he used to work in tech in San Francisco, and the other one used to work at Activision. And his title was, I think, a senior character artist. But he lived in West Palm Beach when he was a kid and a teenager and grew up around the area. And it's like, oh wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
But you don't know that these people are there unless you go out and try to meet others.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's actually really amazing. Like I'm not sure, like in my area specifically, but like I said, you said before, you don't know unless you like put yourself out there. Because
Exactly. And you guys are in Orlando, so Orlando has more of an industry and more cool people, for lack of a better term, simply because Disney used to be there, and there's a lot more tech and more job opportunities there for individuals.
You gotta find other cool hip kids who may also like the video games.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand your sentiment and where you're coming from. Speaking from your personal experience, I remember when I was a freshman here at UCF, I was really nervous about going to a game jam, and I remember specifically. I remember a certain brother whose name rhymes with David, who pushed me to go to this meeting. Like, you're gonna appreciate, you're gonna meet new people, and they'll give you the opportunity to learn more and just get some camaraderie. And it was good advice. I took that advice from that brother. So it's definitely really important to be able to just put yourself out there and be willing to experience new things and just take a chance.
For sure. He gave some great advice.
Yeah, that brother. I wonder where he is now. But Adrian, do you have any other questions you want to give David real quick?
Yeah. Since I know in the video game industry, well, I guess like entertainment, could it be kind of? I guess it could count overall.
I guess like technology entertainment.
Technology entertainment. Yeah. I know that it's easy to like get overworked and burn out, especially so with the high pace like environment. Do you have any tips on like how to help not become too overworked or like, go through burnout in these situations like that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it might be inevitable depending on the type of schedule and department you're working in, because you might just be forced to work long hours. But in general, the thing that I do is I code all day. So when I go home, I'm not coding. I do the opposite. I go out, I socialize, I go dancing, I go do things that don't involve being in front of a computer.
So you make sure to separate your work life with your personal life.
I mean, yes and no, right? Like, it's, for example, if you're really passionate about programming, and that's really what you love, you can still go home and program. You just want to focus on something else that's unrelated to what you did at work.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You just have to find those things that give you back energy, something to look forward to at the end of the day.
Nice.
Okay.
And obviously, as you grow, these things will change, depending on your situation, what your interests, or where your interests may lay. Right? Like before, I was doing a lot more gaming events. Now I'm just focusing more on dancing, because that's where I'm getting my energy from now.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go back to work and you do your things. But I still also go to all the CGRIP events. I still try to go do gaming related events. For example, when I went to London, I had this opportunity to go to a tech artist meetup, and those things are not a thing here, like in New York. But it's also just great to have a meetup of just other people who do what I do and to hear what they do and what they've been doing. It's a great way to grow, like, as a person, or even like, more than a person. It's like a way to become more knowledgeable about your field and what you're doing, because that knowledge will come into play at some point. You just don't know when. Mm-hmm. And again, it gives you opportunity to meet others.
Yeah, you never know what will come down the line unless you take that chance.
Yeah, that's true. Cause I guess so. I'm sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say.
It happens. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. But speaking of what you're saying earlier about having this lifestyle where you're just your interests change, your situation may change, but you're able to still maintain like this level of commitment to your work and this level of passion for whatever it is that you're passionate about. My next question would be, what advice would you give to people that are currently struggling with being noticed for a job position or internship? Because for people who are trying to get a position anywhere or an internship anywhere, it's very disheartening when you don't get that call back, or you get told like you aren't what they're looking for. What's your advice to students in particular who are going through or even graduates who are going through this tough time
working on your portfolio. It's a thing where we get so many applications that we're gonna call the person that's better. Sometimes you're also competing against professionals. For example, you're not applying for an internship, but you're applying for the actual like junior looking position. Sometimes you may be competing with someone that's like a mid-level that had some experience somewhere. But at the end of the day, for positions where you have to present like a demo reel or an example of work, when a company is looking to hire someone, they have a very specific set of tasks in mind for that person. So if you happen to have a portfolio that meets the criteria for the tasks that they need you for, go up, right?
What do you mean by going up? Oh, in the list.
Like there's a list that's going to be on the top. And if they like you, you'll probably get some sort of notification from HR. And if that goes well, you'll probably get some sort of test to confirm that the things that you're saying that you can do and that you've put online, like they're things you actually know how to do. And that's kind of how I got my job at Rockstar. I had a demo reel showcasing that I built tools for animation. And the role I got hired to do was to build animation tools.
Mm-hmm.
And then the art test I got was, I say art test, the code test was to build an animation tool, which I did. And when I got that test, I went above and beyond what they asked. Because that's the other fallacy a lot of people fall into. But they don't realize that test also has other things in it. It might be as simple as, oh, we forgot to mention that you need to add error checking, and then this is a coding example, right?
Okay.
Or it's like, we just want something to load information, but maybe you could also make a UI that takes a picture of the screen or something that's more actually look like a tool.
Okay, so it's more about being able to like not only do the bare minimum what they're asking, but to go above and beyond and create your own solutions to other problems they didn't ask you, which is kind of like what happens in the workforce.
For example, a lot of the problems we see in the type of tests that we give out is that people become so focused on what was written on the test, they forget some of the very simple things. Like if I ask you to make a calculator and then you forget to add a check when you divide by 0 and everything breaks, well, that's just a math thing. Like you should have tested that out. Like, and that's something people don't do. They forget that, hey, this is supposed to work on any machine, or this is supposed to work at any time. Like sometimes the tests are not as like, it's important that it works. We want to see how you made it work.
Okay.
Hiring someone that's just like, yeah, you can make art. We want to see like, what's your thought process when you make your art, or when you are building your tools, you're building this code. When we look at portfolios, we look at, okay, here's your resume, here's your website, but what else does your website say? Like, if you're really interesting to us, we're gonna totally like stalk you online, and we're gonna try to see, okay, so this person made an article. Let's skim it and see what they said. Oh, they made some video. They've done some talks at a conference. Blah blah blah. Just to see like what this person is like, or what they talk about. Like again, what they submitted for the job, like whatever job application they submitted, doesn't match what they have online, right?
Yeah, see the person applying and like consistent.
The person. Mm-hmm. Because besides the technical portion, work with every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So like, are they interesting? Are they someone you can see yourself sitting down and having lunch with? Because no one wants to work with pricks. If you're an asshole, you're not gonna get the job, and if you do get the job, chances are you're gonna get fired or removed really quickly. More often than not, like we are more likely to hire a B level candidate with good personality than an A level candidate that can't work with others, because your entire job is to work with others. It's whether it's your team or supporting other teams. You're joining a community. It's not a one-man show. And if it is a one-man show, chances are you're like a freelancer working from home, where it doesn't really matter.
I see. That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially in a field like this, like where you said before, like connections are so important that you just gotta look for people that not only like good at what they do and go above and beyond that work, but also like be able to just maintain essential professionalism, just be courteous.
Yeah. But keep in mind, like knowing people is really good, and it's really a part you should strive to. It's not the only thing that matters. Like, again, I got my job just by submitting an application online.
Yeah.
Like, I had people in the past help me build my portfolio and my skills, and that's great. And so that's the other thing. Like, yeah, you might not be getting this internship, but maybe you can get a job that will give you some of these skills. I feel like as a student, people forget that you're in the computer graphics industry. It's not just video games. It's AR, VR, it's projection mapping, it's VFX, it's animated films, right? Like,
yeah, it's the industry.
In so many different places. Yeah, sure, maybe you might not get the internship at Blizzard, but maybe there's a local company that does apps where you can work for during the summer. That is still experience. We are a very skill-based industry, so it doesn't matter where you're graduating from. We're not going to look at that and be like, oh, this person graduated from UCF. Like, we want them or we don't. Like, maybe if they have a partnership with the company, are more likely to get a student from UCF. When you look at other companies, especially the ones that are not in that city, like, do they care? Most likely not, right?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
They're just going to look at your portfolio and your skills, and after that, they're going to look at how you are as a person. Also remember that the most important thing about having like a big company, or really any company in your resume, is it says that someone took a chance upon you and someone trusted you to do some work, and then you performed it well, or maybe you didn't. I don't know, but at least someone took a chance on you. Your resume is a story. Like, what type of story are you trying to tell? You're going to want to tell whatever story best fits the job application or job posting that you want to apply to. And if you're applying for a freelance position, like, having a resume with a lot of like odd end jobs might be fine. Also, even if the jobs are not necessarily within the industry, you can always change the wording to reflect something you experienced in the job that's relevant to what you're doing. For example, you could have, I work at McDonald's, if that's the only thing you have, but then you can mention that you had to deal with different people and how to manage teams or manage personalities. Again, that's something that's very real. Like, you're always going to be dealing with people, right? So you always find a way to add like some phrases that tell the story that the person on the other end wants to hear. And you don't have to lie. You just have to tell them the parts that are relevant. Because you're not going to say, I flip burgers all day. You're not. That doesn't involve anything with video games, unless you're maybe like, oh, we're making a video game called Overcooked. We would like to have
you will look Overcooked 3.
Yeah. But other than that, it's just find the things. It's a story you want to tell and the story you're telling. And besides that, it's just make sure your resume is really easy to read. So when it goes to resumes, for example, that another thing is, you don't have to go in depth. Keep it short and concise. Like I mentioned, if you sound really good on the resume, chances are the important people reviewing your job application, and these are going to be, again, like the people on the team that are requesting for this person to get hired. They're going to look you up. So you can have a LinkedIn profile that goes way in depth, or maybe your website goes really in depth on what you did.
It's a group effort then, when it comes to like the application process?
It's going to depend on how big your team is, right? Like, if you're going to be joining a big team, chances are multiple people might look at your resume. If you're applying at a smaller job or a really small team, there's only one person, it's only that one person. Like, when we look at resumes and potential candidates, it's during work. It's like you're taking away time from things we should be doing. For us, being able to save time and to focus on our actual tasks is very important. So that the easier you make it to go through your job application and through your resume, the better. And if you make it easy, it's like, oh, here's their website, and on their website, there's their work, and it has more information. It's exactly what you want. That's great, because think, hey, like, it's very obvious that this person is excellent at what they do because it matches what's on their resume, and it's exactly what we want. And we don't want to waste time. The minute something gets too complex to look up, well, we just move on to the next person. We get sometimes some resumes with so much text that I just gloss over them because I don't have the time.
I see.
Sometimes we're just looking for keywords as well. Like, applying for a job that uses Maya, we're probably going to be looking for Maya experience or something that's relevant, that really sticks out.
Okay.
When it comes to like, if you're especially applying for an art-related job, taking in consideration the type of games that company tends to make. If it's like, again, EA, and they're making another, I don't know, FIFA, then you probably want to include some sort of soccer model like in your portfolio, or like a super realistic humanoid. If you're applying to Blizzard, you may want to have something really cartoony. If you're going to Disney, again, even more cartoony, more akin to their style. One of the best, and I've seen people do it, is you should probably look up people that have the job that you want and try to find their demo reels and try to find their GitHubs and see if they haven't updated it since they applied. You can probably copy the type of style presentations that they used.
Okay.
For your work. And mimicry is like the greatest form of flattery. I think that's the saying.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so if you just follow in the footsteps of someone that got the job, you're most likely gonna get the job.
Wow, what concept! Oh my gosh. But I definitely understand what you're trying to say about the whole like, if you want to apply to Blizzard, you gotta make sure you have like the kind of resume that they're looking for, And like if you're applying for like the position with that company, research the company beforehand, research like what they're looking for that position, and apply that to resume so that they look for the things that they want to see. Yeah. Don't give them like too much information, or like give them information that isn't relevant.
Yeah, definitely. And also remember that applying to a big company is different from applying to a small company. If you're applying to a small company, you might be applying for a job that requires you to wear many, many hats. If you're applying for a bigger company, it might be one very specific focus. So again, make sure you tailor your demo reels and your resumes almost per job if you can. I mean, I think for the demo reel it's a bit harder. So if you have a demo reel, you may want to tailor it based on the type of positions you want to make. So you might have a show reel just kind of showing all your professional work and any personal work that you think is extraordinarily amazing.
Yeah.
And then make the demo reels for the type of positions you want. Like for me, it would have been a rigging demo reel, a scripting demo reel, and maybe even like a grooming demo reel for VFX, just showcasing that I can do fur and shading. So think about that. Yeah, and then again, look up the positions ahead of time so you can have all of this ready. When I was applying for jobs, I had a resume template. I would always change the job title to be exactly what the job position I was applying for would be.
Interesting. Huh. I never really thought about it that way.
Person is paying attention to the job posting as it went up. And I always double check what the job posting says. Because if you can change certain things to make it even more relevant, go for it. Always make a cover letter and always tailor that cover letter to the company that you're applying for. If you can, try to find a name online to address it to, right? Like that's what LinkedIn is for. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Resources and recruiters tend to be on LinkedIn for that reason.
It's very good, very good. That was a lot of juicy tidbits of information. Very relevant for students, UCF. It's a good thing it's on the podcast. All right, so I actually have another question for you, Mr. Vega, if you don't mind, of course. So what skills did you learn when you were at school at Wholesale that you still use at work today?
At work?
Yeah. Like what skills did you learn when you were in school that you think still applies to what you do today?
So, I mean, I obviously learned Python at school, so I use that every day. So I use that every day. But besides that, it's because of the position I'm in. I'm a technical artist means many different things within the video game industry. It means you're either some sort of rigger, or maybe you're doing VFX, or maybe you're doing shading work, or maybe you're just an animator that knows how to use Maya, or you're just an artist that happens to know how to use Maya or whatever tools they have. In my case, I just code all day, but like because at school we went through the entire art pipeline. I'm very familiar with how artists work, and that helped me get a better understanding of how artists think and how to make tools for them, right? It also allows me to support more teams outside of just the animation team at work should they need any help.
Okay.
And obviously, it also allows me to, when I go out at to events, to really empathy towards the artists because I have an idea of what they're doing.
Basically, understanding of their work ethic and what they do for the process. It lets you better help them if they have any problems.
Yes, because you understand where they're coming from.
Exactly.
And that's something people that only code, they'll have a very difficult time understanding why an animator or an artist may want something a certain way because it doesn't make logical sense, right? Artists don't tend to follow logic because it's art.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a coder didn't study art. A coder doesn't know how to make UI that's UX friendly, right? Like it's, for example, when you see a program and it has a bunch of I think Maya is a very good example. If you try to change a shader, when you're shading in real life, you only really care about two things. It's how rough it is and luminosity or something. But if you go into Maya, you open a shader, it's 20, 30 different levers that you have to play around with. And you're like, well, what the hell is this? Same thing when you're making VFX, it's 20 different levers. And it's spring strength, and then spring dampness, and spring blah, blah. And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
What's happening?
Yeah. And again, that's because someone understands this is all the math. I need all this math. But at the end of the day, an artist only wants maybe one slider or two, or something that's really intuitive. And you may not get that unless you've been through the trenches trying to make the art. Because you might not understand why, because you're a very logical person, and vice versa. If you're an artist that's never coded, you'll never understand why certain parts of your tools have to be so uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes you can't make that tool or that thing work in a very simple manner, and you might have to add in some extra fields for the artist to plug in. And sometimes the artist is well, why can't I just skip this part? Because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But at the time, you want to be able to address the artist how they want to be addressed and make the type of tools that they want. Because it's not, again, you're never working for yourself, really. You're working for others. And also that's why a job at McDonald's makes perfect sense for you to put in your resume, because it's hey, I know customer service. I know people.
Write that down.
Important. Very important. Yes. I also have a question. It's related to what you were saying earlier about how when you're submitting resumes and portfolios to bigger companies versus smaller companies, in your opinion, what would be I guess what would be better, but in your opinion, what would be better for if students have the chance to work at try to get a place at a bigger company or one of a smaller company? What benefits do you see from those perspectives, I guess?
Are you asking at which companies do students have a better chance at getting a job at?
Yes,
or which company is gonna make your career basically jumpstart your career? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying yeah, probably with both. And if you
okay, I've seen people get internships in some very big profile companies, and then their careers have basically stopped in games. It might have been due to personal things happen in their life, but they could never overcome those obstacles. so much of getting a job in the industry is yourself. It's how much work am I willing to put in to get that dream job that I want. And also, so you have to remember that people grow at different rates. So just because maybe there's a very talented student at your school that, hey, they literally just went through school and then they quit halfway because they got an internship, or maybe they graduated and got an internship right off the bat, doesn't mean that you're not going to get a job. It just means you have to put more time and effort to get to the level that they got to because you learn differently. And keep in mind that one of the greatest things about learning is, like you could focus on Python, you can focus on this and that, but you can also focus on other things. And eventually you're going to figure out that the different hobbies that make up your life will probably also affect how you view your career and how you make choices at work. So being a generalist in a sense is never bad, because you'll be like, you have something you're really good at, but then you can use your experiences and these other hobbies and focuses that you like to make better decisions and make better projects for your main passion.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, essentially you can be like a jack of all trades, but then jack of all trades gives you a really broad perspective and broad knowledge of how to tackle things. And it's very similar to the example I gave before about me, because I experience all the aspects of the CG pipeline. I can better understand everyone when I have to do the thing that I focus in, which is coding. So it doesn't really matter like which company you start at some point or another. If you keep working at it, you'll probably get to that job position or company that you really want to get to, simply because you're putting the time and effort.
Oh, okay.
So you're trying to say that being a multifaceted person gives you a broader perspective on multiple fields and lets you really understand people and understand certain
not
issues.
Necessarily. What I'm trying to say is you have many experiences outside of the ones that are focused strictly on your career. For example, I like to dance, but dancing involves a lot of thinking on the spot, especially when you're dancing with someone else, and how do you lead them and how do you communicate without words. And that can easily be translated back into work, where it's like, how can I communicate with others in a very simple, thorough way?
Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. Yeah, I feel you.
You understand? So that's what I'm referring to. Like, if you like photography, you can go and take pictures, and it's like, okay, I'm learning how to frame a picture. So now, like, how do I frame my stories? How do I frame the words that I'm using? Especially when you're trying to pitch something in a meeting or pitch an idea to a coworker, or maybe you're trying to explain to someone that's not as knowledgeable about the thing that you know a lot about. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, you can totally get that job that you want. Just because it doesn't happen right away, it doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. But part of it is, can you stay motivated for that long? And will that still be your dream? Because I think that's the other part people forget about as a student, that you may have a dream. I want to work at Disney. I want to work at Blizzard. I want to work here, company A, B, C, and D. But as you grow, you gain new experiences in your life. And as you get more experiences, you'd be like, well, I've heard company A, one of my favorite companies, they have a horrible crunch culture, so I don't think I want to work there. Or maybe you decide, I don't want to live in Florida. I want to live in London, or I'm thinking about starting a family. So now, like,
in Wisconsin,
certain things become, like, certain dreams have to die, sadly, but they get replaced by new dreams. And now the skills that you built up are far more relevant to the new dreams that you have than the ones you were chasing. Eventually, you will land in the right spot. And also, just like we're a technology-based industry, so everything's changing all the time. When VR became a hot thing, a lot of people from film and games switched over to VR. And some people are still there, you know? And if you work at a smaller company, it's like, let's say it's 2016 and everyone's into VR. You want to work at Blizzard, but you didn't get the internship. Instead, you got this internship at a smaller company. Then it turns out that, hey, this guy just quit Blizzard to work with us. And it's like, well, your dream still came true. You're working with someone that worked at this amazing company that you adored. And now you have a mentor and a friend. And then it goes back to the thing I was saying before, where you don't know who lives around the corner.
Yeah, you don't know what life will throw at you. You never know who's around that corner.
Someone that did something that you really admire is there, and you're going to get the opportunity to learn from them. And I know that the other thing that's like funny with the industry is, especially with the artists, it's you go to ArtStation and you have like these hot demo reels, these like hot things, or these hot works that everyone's looking at and Googling at. So they become like the people to look at for a couple of months. But just because they're good artists doesn't mean they're good teachers. Sometimes some of the best teachers are not the best artists. And when you need a teacher, you need someone that's good at teaching. So you might get that at a smaller company or a local company. Or you might not. It depends.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, a lot of it is really up to you and how far you're willing to take your work and like how much more work you have to do compared to others. Because for me, when I was in school, I knew I wasn't the best. So I would just go to class, and then after class, I would work on coding and work on rigging. And that's just what I kept doing. And then I kept doing it after I graduated. And eventually I got the job that I wanted, doing what I like. I was not ready for the job that I wanted when I graduated. I had to keep working at it.
Nice. That kind of relates back to this whole topic of having to, try and get a job in the industry after you graduate, or trying to get an internship when you're in school. So we're nearing like about the last several minutes of the podcast duration. So my final question to you, Mr. David Leonardo Vega, is there any final advice or statements you'd like to give to students that hasn't come up yet during our conversation? Perhaps anything that you want to say?
I have to think about that. One dream.
Say it again. I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Don't marry any one dream, because you don't know what the future holds. It's always better to be prepared. So as the saying goes, luck favors the prepared. So if you know what you want to do, you should probably start working on it right now. Anything you put your time into right now will be beneficial later, because it's gonna compound. Like any knowledge you gain today, you can use it tomorrow. But it's only if you learned it today. The same thing with any work that you make. Like if you need to put those 1,000 hours in, you better start by putting in those first 10 minutes. We're in a skill-based industry, so do that. And don't be afraid to go and I think what you guys are doing is great, like having this podcast and being part of GDK. Like certainly go out and host events and get people together. I think the other option that wasn't floated is, if you can't get the job at a company that you want, make your own fucking company. No, who's gonna stop you? Like Unity's free. Get a couple of friends, make a game, put it out.
The internet's right there.
Well, yeah, but more than that, like you guys are in school. You guys literally have nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
Yeah, the reason a lot of people aren't as entrepreneurial is because once you get a job, once you get a family, it becomes really hard to say, I'm going to put everything on the line, because now you're taking care of kids or you have bills. Now you guys are studying and you guys have a lot of free time. Like, why not? You might make a small game and you might put it on the App Store and make you $7 a day. But $7 a day is better than
zero.
No. Yeah. I think the other thing is your experience is your experience. It doesn't have to be work experience. Because people are looking at, can you do this? Can you do that? And if you say, well, I did it for my project, here's examples. This is what I learned. That's fine. And just don't be afraid to try. You guys are in a very good position to take risks because the risks are not that high, but they will get higher as time goes on. I think that's what I've seen a lot of people. So you're going to notice in your graduating class, not everyone's going to get a job. People are not even going to use their degrees for what they got it for. And it's going to be because some people lost faith or they lost their ambitions to continue down this path. External. It's because they got into an accident or things happen in their life where they can no longer actively pursue it, which kind of sucks. In other times, it's because they felt overwhelmed by the fact they couldn't get a job and couldn't keep that passion going. So if you don't have your friends and you have the projects to keep you going, you might stop. And that's I think it's sad when that happens. Yeah, it's all up to you. Make sure you're surrounded by the type of people that are going to push you forward. And again, if you don't get that job, then make that job yourself. If you can't find those people, join GDK and find those people. Or if you move out of Orlando, make your own GDK somewhere else.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, find those people. I think on that note, we can. I'm sorry, did I cut you off by accident?
I was going to say, except today because coronavirus.
Maybe not right now, but when all the smoke clears, then get out there and take risks. I think on that note, we can go ahead and close tonight's discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. David Vega, for coming on to the podcast and talking to us and giving us your humble advice and wisdom.
No worries. I don't know if it's still up there, but I did a talk at UCF a year ago. It
was like last summer, right?
Yeah, so I think it's still up there, and it was with character artists from EA, technical artists from, I think, Cubic, and a producer from Cubic. So if you guys want to look at that, that's available online at GDK somewhere. And these people that are hosting the podcast should be able to point you towards that link.
It's a very good point. It's in the vault. Exactly. But again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come talk to us. We appreciate it. This is the end of our first podcast semester at Real Game Dev Hours. Thank you everyone for listening and for joining in. I hope you all got a lesson out of this and learned something new today. Stay beautiful, guys, and signing out.